Alright, welcome back. In this video we're going to add just a little bit more detail to this grip here. It's looking good so far, but it could look better. So I'm just going to hop into front view, one on the number pad of course, and then this time we're going to actually use some Boolean magic to make this thing look even cooler. So I'm going to add a slice operation cutting through here kind of like this. So there's a little back piece with a little bit of a slice in the middle. I think it would look quite nice. So we'll press Shift A, go to Mesh, and then single vert, add a single vert, invert mode of course. And we're just going to position this vert somewhere over here. Let's extrude down this way, and then extrude down this way, and extrude up, and let's fill in this. And we'll extrude straight through, and now we're going to use this guy as our slice piece basically. Now I'll probably end up repositioning this, but for now I just want to get the slice previewed so I can change it easily. So I'm going to select this piece and then shift select the grip here, and we're going to press Control and / on the number pad to add the slice. So already you kind of have an idea as to what we're going for in the back. So let's scale this a bit on the origin point changed again. Right click, set origin to geometry. Let's scale this on the X a bit. See what type of design we can get. Maybe even tab into edge mode and pull this edge over a little. That looks decent. And you're going to see there's a very harsh corner here, so maybe we could take this edge and press Control B and just scroll up on the scroll wheel, get that a nice little bit of beveling. I think that looks quite nice. Now one other thing I want to do is go to the main part of the grip, and we're going to tab into edge mode here. Now you're going to see we have access to the entire grip. So I want the bottom to kind of have a clear seam around this edge and around this edge. You'll see what I mean in a second. So if we alt click this edge here and alt shift click these bottom edges, and if we press Control B to add in a bevel, let's scroll down. We only want probably just one bevel here. Now check this out. If we go into object mode, now we have a pretty clear transition. I think that looks a lot cleaner because we kind of have those edges tightened there on the bottom, and I think that looks quite nice for the grip. Okay, so now I want to kind of make this transition a little bit cleaner. Right now we have a pretty harsh edge and it looks cool, but if we add a bevel it'll look even more natural because right now there's no sort of bevel on these edges. So what I want to do is actually have access to this geo here. If we tab into edit mode, it's still non-destructive, meaning we haven't applied the modifiers here. So this is one of the situations in which we're probably going to have to go destructive. Now you're more than welcome to make some backup pieces just in case if you want to come back. I tend to do that a lot. So let's make a new collection here, and you know what, I'm going to organize this menu a little bit real quick. You can do the same by just renaming things and moving it to the main collection. So for now I'm just going to shift select all these pieces. Let me move this to just the main collection. Now we have no clue which one this is. Let me delete that. Probably a random piece of geometry. This is a cutter. We'll move this to the cutters collection, and just a few more of these pieces. I just like to keep organized and move things so this piece here is just a lot cleaner. Okay, there we go. So now I'm going to right click and add a new collection. Let's call this backup. So now before we actually do anything destructively, we can just duplicate it and have it as backup. So I'm just going to duplicate both of these pieces with Shift and D. We'll right click to leave it in place, and then we can just go in here and with these two selected just move that to the backup collection, and we'll of course just make sure our backup collection is turned off so we don't have to see it in the viewport. There we go. So now if we ever wanted to go back and make changes, we can do that easily with this little backup collection, which is, you know, just sitting there. You don't ever really have to touch it. Just kind of helps you ease the mind when you're working destructively. Okay, so let's go ahead and take this piece here in the back. We can't apply the mods currently, so we're probably going to have to go in here, click on that button, and now we can apply these. Going to have to apply the Boolean as well. So now we have access to this geometry here. Now check this out. If we go to add modifier and then click on bevel, This is not going to do anything super interesting right now. There's a few different changes we need to make. Now, if you're new to Blender and you haven't really been introduced to the bevel modifier, you're going to be learning a lot right here, so make sure you pay attention. If you're already seasoned in hard surface, this is probably going to be a breeze for you. So either way, first things first, I want to change this limit method over to angle. So this is going to bevel based on the angles only, if it's at this threshold. So basically anything above this will be beveled. Usually you can just leave it on the default of 30. Usually that works, but you can always adjust it. Oh yeah, we'll just leave it on 30. Next thing, nothing's going to happen, and that's because we have this clamp overlap option turned on. And what this does is it prevents intersecting geometry. Now let me show you what that means. So sometimes when you bevel edges, kind of like this, Control B, it starts overlapping, right? It doesn't look good. As a matter of fact, I need to select everything, Shift N to recalculate the normals, and now let's try that again. You can see once I start beveling, eventually it'll start kind of overlapping. This clamp overlap button prevents that from happening when we're using the modifier. Now, I usually keep this off. I just use this to diagnose issues most of the time. Usually very slight overshoots aren't a big deal, and even if they're very slight, the bevel modifier is still going to capture them. So basically nothing is being beveled right now because the clamp's kicking in immediately. So we're going to turn that off, and Blender's going to hate us. So let's make Blender a little bit happier. Let's turn the segments up to around 3 just to make the bevel tighter. And keep in mind, this bevel modifier is literally the same as if we were going in here and beveling manually, kind of like this. But it's doing it non-destructively, meaning that those changes aren't going to be locked in. We can change everything in here whenever we want. Anyways, we need to hold Shift and drop the offset. So you can kind of see what's happening here. The bevel really makes this thing look a lot better. You can see there's a much clearer transition between the two. But usually in these situations, we have a lot of ugly geometry kind of going around the edges here. Everything else looks great, which is good news, but this geometry here needs to be cleaned up. So I'm just going to hop into local view here with / on the number pad, and we can kind of work with this a little bit nicer. So fortunately, we only have to work with the first half of it, because then we can just symmetrize it to the other side, so the same changes are basically reflected to the other side. So what I'm going to do is just tab into vert mode, and we're just going to have to do some manual cleanup here. This looks pretty scary, but it's quite easy to fix. Basically, we just want to go in here and make sure our auto merge is turned on, because if it's turned off, it won't merge the vertices together. But if it's turned on, double tap G, it merges everything together. So just kind of follow what I'm doing. All we want to do is merge all of these really close vertices together. It's not super difficult, just a little bit tedious. Maybe we'll move this one. Now, by the way, I wouldn't suggest moving the vertices that are part of the general curvature of the mesh, because then look, now it's distorting this area which we care about. But on these sides, like if we move these pieces, it doesn't really make a difference. So I'm going to work on only moving the vertices that are on the side piece of the grip. So let's see, maybe we can move this one, and then move this one. And let's move this down a bit. Let's see, what else could we do here? This one's pretty close. Double tap G to slide that. Let's slide that. Now you're going to see this edge here is causing the bevel to intersect, but if we just move that past it, much better. We can also slide this one to merge. Let's shade that smooth. I guess it wasn't shaded smooth. Looks a little bit better that way. So slow but steady progress here. Let me select, you can see there's a big stretch of shading here. Let's try to isolate that shading, get it more constrained by selecting these two vertices. We'll press the J key and just slide this a little bit closer. It's all about just kind of managing where these vertices are placed to make it look good. It's not the most fun process, but it definitely helps. Let's see. Maybe we could... Let's see, not that. This is really just problem solving. I actually find this quite therapeutic sometimes, just kind of moving and solving problems. Maybe it's just because I'm more of an analytical person. Okay, let's maybe take some of these edges and just slide them up. It'll just kind of help constrain some of that shading. You can see the shading is much more isolated up there, which is not going to give us any problem when we render. Because look, if this was really far down, it looks terrible, so we want to constrain that. So not too bad. I'm not going to go too far over because we can just symmetrize the model. Let's slide that down. Maybe what we could do is select these two vertices and press J, and then instead we can take this edge, in edge mode, Control X to dissolve it. So it's looking a lot better already. And if you're a beginner and this seems kind of, like a scary concept, I totally get it, and there's no way in one course watching or practicing what someone else is doing that you're going to fully be able to, get this to be intuitive. This type of cleanup requires a lot of work and just a lot of time, really. You have to work on your own models and figure out what cleanup strategies work best for you. But this is definitely going to be a good intro to helping you get better at that process. And some people like to say, well, what about the triangles and n-gons? And we're going for a render. It simply doesn't matter as long as the shading is constrained and doesn't show up in the render. That's the main thing we care about here. Let's try that. Okay, we're making slow but steady progress here. I'm just trying to keep isolating things. Maybe we'll Control X dissolve that. Control X dissolve that. Let's try taking this edge here, Control X to dissolve it, and then just to make this more consistent, we could either join here or just join here. That'll isolate the shading even more. And I don't even know if we need that edge right there, so Control X to dissolve that. And you're going to see it still is kind of jagged right here, so let's try increasing the bevel angle, seeing what we can capture. Actually, no, we're not going to adjust the bevel angle because it's already beveled. We want to adjust the smoothing angle. So it looks like these jagged edges aren't quite within this threshold here, so if we just kind of increase it, I never really worry about the number, I just worry about how it looks, so if we just increase that, looks a lot better. Okay, so this thing is looking really, really good. There is a little bit of error down here on the bottom, which we can clean up real quick. We're just going to start sliding and just seeing what works for us. So we don't have to slide too far. Let's just get these guys out of the way so there's no distortion. And perfect. This is looking super, super clean. So you can see with just a little bit of cleaning up and just sliding vertices around, you can get something that looks pretty decent in my opinion. I just try to make things as even as I can, but there's a point where you just have to accept defeat sometimes, or just accept that where it is good enough. Okay, so obviously none of us want to have to go here and do the same thing to the other side. So what I'm actually going to do here is, first of all, we need to make sure our rotation is applied. So I'm going to press Control A, apply rotation. So now what we can do is tab into edit mode, select everything with the A key, and if we press the F3 on our keyboard and search for symmetrize, this is just going to symmetrize the object to the other side so they're both even. So I'm going to go down here to symmetrize mesh, and usually you just have to mess with these values. So it looks like it's the y-axis we're symmetrizing over, so it's going to be one of these, whichever one looks good. That one looks okay. And now check this out. Absolutely amazing. Well, let's see. Well, actually this isn't even going to show up when we go back into main view, so we don't have to worry about cleaning that up either. So yeah, don't give yourself more work than you need to. That looks really, really good. I'm happy with that. But unfortunately, we need to do the same thing to this piece here because this one still has a pretty harsh edge. So this is the perfect time to issue a challenge. So I'm going to stop the video here, and I want you to try to take this piece, just take it into local view, tab into vertex mode. Before we do that, we need to make sure we actually apply our modifiers here. What I want you to do before the next video starts is try to clean this up on your own. Add the bevel modifier. As a matter of fact, we'll do the bevel modifier in this video, and in the next one I'll have you clean it up. So we'll add our bevel modifier, and then the challenge is just going to be for you to clean up all of the shading issues. So let's just go into object mode, add modifier bevel. We're going to do the same thing as before. We'll change the limit method here to angle, clamp overlap off, and then just shift click, shift hold the offset to kind of move it slower. Now it's not beveling properly, which immediately tells us, hey, I need to go into edit mode, select everything, and then press shift N to recalculate the normal so that way it bevels in the correct direction. So now we'll just increase the segment count to about 3. Just mess with the offset a bit, and right click to shade this guy smooth. So yeah, now before the next video starts, I want you to just go and try this on your own, try cleaning up the shading and the weird artifacts going on, and in the next video I'll show you what I did. So this is going to be a very good learning process, so I would really encourage you to try this on your own. Just go into vertex mode, make sure auto merge is turned on, then all you have to do is just start sliding pieces in just, various directions, cleaning things up, and just experimenting really. This is all a learning process. This is something that you just get better at by doing. So I'll do one more and then stop. So in the next video I'll show you what I did.